In the brevity of time, I think what I'd like to do is get to the associate spotlight. And since we have Dick sitting here with us, he's going to help us kick off this series we're starting today, which is to get to know some of our different associates. So, Dick, how long have you been with the firm?
Well, let's see. Apart from a brief sabbatical, I joined the firm in June of 1998.
Wow. Well,
So
it's been a couple days.
Yeah, been a while.
So, nobody ever, goes to, first of all, there's no place to go to school to become a proposal manager. And nobody ever comes
Right.
out of their, undergrad or even a graduate program and says, yep, my vision of my career is going to be a proposal manager.
Right.
How the heck did you fall into this?
Well, you're right. I mean, everybody's an accidental proposal manager, right? So I was working in the UK for, my company. I'd been there, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, you're a subject matter expert, and I'm an engineer by degree. And so I'm not sure anymore, but I was a subject matter expert with HF radio communications for the military. They had a opportunity to bid to the Australian government. And so, would I go and work on the proposal as a subject matter expert? So I was like, oh, do I really want to do this? Is this something I want to do? I was running an R&D department. And they said, well, it's fun. And the fun part of it was that it was actually in Melbourne, Australia.
Huh.
So I thought, well, that's nice, right? You're going from, the UK in the sort of the fall and winter. And anybody who's been to the UK knows it's just like months of grey and cold and miserable weather. And you're going to go to Australia, which of course is in the middle of their summer, which was perfect. So anyway, long story short, I went to Australia for nearly 3 months, worked on a proposal, learnt some interesting proposal techniques, that it's not all, accidental. There is some structure to it.
Yep.
And then, of course, when I came back to the UK this was 95, they said, Eassom, you know how to do a proposal. So that's it. You then get branded as a proposal person. And I worked on another proposal for some warship communications. And then eventually I came over here to work on a proposal for the state of Kuwait with what was then Lytton Data Systems, near Northrop Grumman, up in the San Fernando Valley. Guess who was running the proposal? SM&A. And so I got chatting with the proposal manager and the team there. And I said, so this is good. So you guys, you do a proposal, and then when it's done, you kind of go home and put your feet up until the next one. And they said, yeah, kind of like that. And I thought, well, this is the job for me.
Nice.
And so I was very fortunate. I was able to jump ship and join SM&A.
Which is now SMA.
SMA, yeah.
Right.
So there we are.
So I know at one point you had kind of this epiphany around, active voice and passive voice and all that. So, why is that important? And what was the epiphany?
What was the epiphany? So so there I was out here working on this proposal for the state of Kuwait, and learning the fundamentals of the SMA process. I mean, I came into it midway, so didn't go right from the beginning, but it was always stressed that we were going to be writing in first person, active voice, present tense, because this is a much punchier, more readable, more persuasive form of writing. And as an engineer, and we're both engineers, that's not how we write. We write in the sort of the meekest, most timid way of writing, which is third person, future tense maybe.
I know this isn't true in the UK, but American engineers can't spell either.
It's kind of the same across there. Yeah. So anyway, we so I went back to, while I was here, I went back to the UK for a short break, and I popped into the office and they said, oh, could you look at this executive summary for this proposal we're doing? And I said, yeah, of course, sure. And it was only a couple of pages, and I just read through it and went, wow, this is really boring. Let me rewrite it. And I rewrote it into first person active voice and gave it back to them, and everybody was just like, wow, what a difference this makes. And I think that was the first time that I saw that reaction and realized, yeah, there is something about this. It really does come over, and as an engineer, this is not how I write. So it's taken me a long time it took me a long time to retrain my brain to write in active voice.
Yeah, it took you a few years to beat it into my head as well.
Well,
so.
there we go, and you can do it now. We can both do it. Yeah.
So there's a lot of process out there, but I think one distinct attribute of the SMA process is the mod spec. Yeah, so what's the magic behind the mod spec?
Well, again, it's when you first get asked to work on a proposal, everybody sighs and goes, "Oh, why do I have to work on a proposal? It's horrible. I'm an engineer. I just want to do my engineer thing." Right. And one of the things I found working with client proposal teams where there's engineers involved is trying to explain the process, because they just want to write and go back and into their desk and do their thing.
Start playing with
hardware, whatever, right?
Exactly.
So, the nice thing about the SMA process, and we've got to really thank Steve Myers, our founder, for doing this. Steve took the system engineering process and applied it to proposals. And so one of the nice things is when you're working with engineers, you can say, look, why are you going to do a mod spec? Well, if you were developing a new product, whether it's a system or whatever, you certainly wouldn't just start, designing things, right? How do you know what you've got to meet? How do you know what the requirements are? And it's exactly the same with the proposal. So with a system, we're going to take our system, devolve it into units and devolve each unit into modules until we get to a point where we can give that to one person to go and design. And knowing that the requirements for that make sure it'll fit in with all the other pieces, right? And we can just build it back up into a system. Exactly the same thing applies to a proposal. We're going to take the overall proposal, drive it down into volumes, drive each volume into modules to be able to give to a person and say, Jacque, this is your module. And look, the mod spec is all the requirements that you have to fulfill in that to respond to in that module. And I think once you say to engineers, that's what they've got to do, everybody goes, oh, okay, the light goes on.
Yeah.
And they go, okay, I understand the point of doing a mod spec. And everybody's, SMA process is, it's not unique. We call it a mod spec. That a bit is unique, but other processors will call it a storyboard or a author's worksheet or whatever it's called. But the whole idea is don't start trying to put this thing together until you know what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think it's eating the elephant one bite at a time.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think in many regards, if you ever sat down and looked at, whether it's an IT implementation or an F-35, it can become very overwhelming if you start looking at that, at a macro level and say, we're going to respond to this and we're going to have to do all this writing, by decomposing it down into its component parts. It allows everybody to get focused on a piece of it and avoid that idea of it's too big. Yeah. And also it also forces the integration points between conversations that are occurring within the proposal and themes within the proposal as well. So it's an incredible piece. So Dick, every proposal manager out there has their war stories. Their greatest proposal ever. The proposal that they use to they parachuted in and saved the day and help the client. So what was your war story? What is that key event?
The pivotal key event. I'd have to go back to once we'd done the Kuwait thing. And so now I'm an SMA associate, SM&A associate back then, of course. I'm in the UK. I'm sitting around waiting for the next gig.
Feet up on the
literally with the feet up waiting for the next gig. And AJ, who was our COO at the time, calls me up and says, "Can you go to see a client and do a proposal?" I was like, yes. And the reason I was picked was because the client was in Germany. I'm in the UK.
It was next door
kind of thing. And this client is OHB System, which is now a very successful public company in Germany, very big in probably the third biggest or second biggest space company, one of the top three space companies in Europe. But at the time, they were just a smaller company. They were a sub to somebody else. That they were in a competition to put some equipment up on the International Space Station. They got out. They were dropped from that team. And felt sufficiently aggrieved that they would put in their own proposal with the goal of really just having a better response for the technical volume, having a better score, and being able to sort of, put one in the eye to the people that might win. They didn't expect to win.
But they did.
Well, they did. So I went over there. We had about 6 weeks working with everybody. They didn't know the process, so we had to do an abbreviated process to get through it all. And we stuck to the guns. We stuck to the budget. We put in a really good-looking proposal, and it won. And Incredible. It was great. And it was a success for them. It was their first time as a prime contractor with the European Space Agency, and they've gone on to greater successes. I was incredibly relieved.
Yes, of course.
Your first proposal on your own, that you actually, were successful, and the rest is history.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, you and I could talk about this all day long, as we have, and unfortunately, we're coming up on the top of the hour. But I want to thank you for sharing a little bit.
Well, thank you for having me.
And I think that's just as a closing point there. I think that's where we met Detlef, isn't it?
It is, yes. Detlef Hooser, Dr. Hooser.
He may even be on with us today, but
I hope he is.
I hope he is as well. He joins often.